The ultimatum. Captain Elena Rodriguez floated in the observation deck of the Deep Space Patrol vessel Aurora, watching the endless field of stars beyond the edge of the solar system. The ship hummed quietly around her as her crew of 12 maintained their standard watch rotation. Elena had been running these perimeter sweeps for 8 years, and nothing interesting had ever happened. The most excitement they usually saw was tracking asteroid debris or checking on the automated mining stations. Lieutenant David Park sat at the sensor station, monitoring long-range scanners for any unusual activity. Sergeant Lisa Wong worked at the communications array, maintaining contact with Earth Command. Chief Engineer Robert Thompson moved between his stations, keeping the ship's systems running smoothly. They were good people, Elena thought, even if their job was usually boring. The Aurora was one of 50 patrol ships that kept watch at the outer boundaries of human space. Most people back on Earth didn't even know they existed. The ships were designed to look like simple research vessels, nothing that would attract attention from anyone who might be passing through the area. Elena's orders were simple: watch, listen, and report anything unusual immediately. Captain, David called from his station, "I'm picking up something strange on the deep space sensors." His voice carried a note of confusion that made Elena push off from the observation window and float over to look at his displays. The screen showed several large objects approaching from the direction of the galactic core. They were moving fast, much faster than any human ship could travel. Elena counted at least 20 contacts, each one massive compared to anything in Earth's fleet. "How big are we talking about, David?" Elena asked, strapping herself into the command chair. "Each one is at least 5 times the size of our largest battlecruiser," David replied, his fingers dancing across his controls. "And Captain, they're heading straight for the inner solar system." Elena felt a cold chill run down her spine. In all her years of patrol duty, they had never encountered anything like this. "Lisa, get me a priority channel to Earth Command. Tell them we have unknown contacts approaching at high speed." Before Lisa could respond, the ship's proximity alarms began blaring. Elena looked at the main screen and saw that the unknown ships had somehow moved much closer in just a few seconds. They hung in space like dark mountains, their hulls covered in weapons and armor plating that gleamed under the distant starlight. "Captain," Lisa said, her voice tight with concern, "I'm receiving a transmission from the unknown fleet. They're requesting immediate communication with our commanding officer." Elena took a deep breath. Whatever was about to happen, she knew it would change everything. "Put them on screen." The main display shifted to show the interior of an alien bridge. The being that appeared was unlike anything Elena had ever imagined. It stood nearly 3 meters tall, with dark purple skin that seemed to absorb light. Its face was angular and sharp, with 6 eyes arranged in 2 rows and a mouth full of crystalline teeth. When it spoke, its voice was deep and commanding. "I am Supreme Commander Vorthek of the Hegemony Empire," the alien said. "You will identify yourself and explain why your primitive vessel dares to operate in space claimed by the Empire." Elena straightened in her chair, drawing on all her military training to keep her voice steady. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Patrol. You are currently in Terran space without authorization. State your business and intentions." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter, but there was no humor in it. "Terran space. Your species has existed in this region for barely a few thousand years. The Hegemony Empire has ruled this sector of the galaxy for over 50,000 years. We have watched your rapid technological development with growing concern." Elena exchanged glances with her crew. They all understood that this was the moment humanity had both feared and prepared for. "What exactly do you want from us?" Supreme Commander Vorthek's 6 eyes focused intently on the screen. "Your species has advanced too quickly. In less than 2 centuries, you have gone from primitive surface dwellers to builders of interstellar vessels. Your expansion into space threatens the established order that has kept this galaxy stable for millennia." The alien paused, and Elena could see other beings moving around the bridge behind him. Their technology looked incredibly advanced, far beyond anything humanity currently possessed. The Hegemony Council has reached a decision regarding your species. You will immediately cease all space exploration activities. Your military forces will be disbanded. Your people will accept hegemony oversight of your technological development. Elena felt anger rising in her chest, but she forced herself to remain calm. And if we refuse? Refusal is not an option, Vorthak replied coldly. We have eliminated 17 other species that refuse to accept hegemony authority. Your choice is submission or extinction. The transmission continued for several more minutes as Vorthak detailed the Empire's demands. Humanity would be required to pay tribute in the form of raw materials and advanced technology. Earth's population would be limited to prevent further expansion. Any human caught in space without hegemony approval would be executed immediately. Elena listened to every word while her crew recorded everything. Finally, Vorthak finished his ultimatum. You have 72 hours to contact your planetary leadership and arrange for total surrender. If we do not receive confirmation of your compliance, we will begin systematic bombardment of your major population centers. The transmission ended, leaving Elena's bridge in stunned silence. For a moment, nobody spoke as the magnitude of the situation sank in. Then Lisa's communication station began chiming with an incoming priority message from Earth. Captain, it's Director Marcus Chen from Global Defense Command. He wants to speak with you immediately. Elena had heard of Director Chen, but had never met him personally. He was rumored to be one of the most intelligent and strategic minds in human government. The screen showed a man in his 60s with gray hair and intense brown eyes. Behind him, Elena could see what looked like a massive command center with hundreds of people working at various stations. Captain Rodriguez, Chen said without preamble, we received your initial report about the alien contact. I need you to transmit all sensor data and communications records immediately. Yes, sir, sending everything now, Elena replied, nodding to Lisa, who began uploading their files. Chen studied something off-screen for a moment before looking back at Elena. Captain, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. For the past 30 years, humanity has been preparing for exactly this scenario. We knew that eventually our expansion into space would attract attention from other galactic powers. Elena felt her heart racing. Sir, are you saying we were expecting this? Not exactly expecting, Chen replied, but we've been preparing for the possibility. Operation Starwall has been in development since the early days of our space program. What the Hegemony Empire doesn't know is that humanity has been building defensive capabilities far beyond what they can see with their scans. The screen split to show new images that made Elena gasp in amazement. Hidden throughout the solar system were massive defensive installations that had been disguised as research stations and mining operations. Weapon platforms emerged from hollowed-out asteroids. Shield generators rose from bases on the far side of the moon. What looked like simple communication satellites suddenly revealed themselves to be armed defense drones. My God, whispered David from his sensor station. How long has all of this been there? Director Chen smiled grimly. We've been working on this for 3 decades. The moment we detected the first signs of advanced alien technology in distant star systems, we knew we had to be ready. Every mining operation, every research station, every satellite launch has been part of building the most advanced planetary defense network in the galaxy. Elena watched the displays showing the true extent of Earth's hidden military might. There were weapons systems she had never heard of, shield technologies that seemed impossible, and coordination networks that spanned the entire solar system. What are your orders, sir? Elena asked. Chen's expression became deadly serious. Captain, you and your crew are about to become the most important people in human history. I want you to return to the Hegemony Fleet and deliver a message from Earth to Supreme Commander Vorthak. What message, sir? Tell him that humanity rejects their ultimatum completely. Tell him that as of this moment, all hegemony forces are banned from entering Terran space. Any Empire vessel that crosses our boundary will be considered an act of war and will be destroyed without warning. Elena felt a chill run through her. Sir, they have 20 ships, each one massive and heavily armed. Are we really ready to fight them? Director Chen's smile became predatory. Captain, those 20 ships represent only a small scouting force. The Hegemony Empire controls thousands of star systems and has millions of vessels. But they're about to learn something very important about humanity. What's that, sir? We don't surrender. We don't bow to threats. And we certainly don't accept slavery from anyone, no matter how powerful they think they are. Chen leaned forward on the screen. Humanity has spent 10,000 years fighting wars and surviving impossible odds. We've faced extinction dozens of times and always found a way to overcome it. The Hegemony Empire is about to discover why we're still here when so many other species are not. Elena felt a surge of pride and determination flowing through her. Around the bridge, her crew straightened in their seats with new confidence. They were no longer just a patrol ship crew. They were humanity's first ambassadors in what might become the most important war in galactic history. I understand, sir. We'll deliver the message. Good, Chen replied. And Captain, make sure they understand that this is not a negotiation. This is not a request. This is a declaration. Earth and all Terran space is now prohibited territory for the Hegemony Empire. They have 48 hours to withdraw all forces beyond our outer boundary. If they're still here after that deadline, we'll consider it an invasion and respond accordingly. The transmission ended, leaving Elena with a mixture of excitement and terror. She looked around at her crew, seeing the same emotions reflected in their faces. They all understood that the next few hours would determine whether humanity remained free or became slaves to an alien empire. Lisa, open a channel to the Hegemony Fleet, Elena ordered. It's time to deliver Earth's response. As the Aurora turned back toward the massive alien ships, Elena thought about her family back on Earth. Her parents lived in a small town in Mexico, probably sitting down to dinner right now without any idea that their daughter was about to help start the most important war in human history. Whatever happened next, she was determined to make sure they remained free. The line in the stars. Supreme Commander Vorthak stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominion, staring at the small human patrol vessel that had just delivered the most outrageous message he had ever received. His 6 eyes burned with fury as he processed what the primitive captain had told him. Humanity was rejecting the Empire's generous offer of submission and instead demanding that hegemony forces withdraw from their territory. Impossible, growled War Marshal Thexan, Vorthak's second in command. These creatures dare to threaten the Empire. They have fewer than 100 ships in their entire fleet. Our single battle group could destroy their entire civilization. Vorthak studied the tactical displays showing the human solar system. His sensors detected the usual collection of planets, moons, and asteroids that made up any typical star system. There were some signs of industrial activity and a modest number of vessels, but nothing that suggested military capability beyond basic planetary defense. Intelligence reports indicate they have been expanding rapidly, observed Science Commander Ylara from her station. Perhaps they have hidden capabilities we have not detected. Hidden capabilities. Thexan made a dismissive gesture. They have existed in space for less than 3 centuries. The Empire has conquered species with 10,000 years of spacefaring experience. What could these humans possibly have that threatens us? Captain Elena Rodriguez watched from the bridge of the Aurora as the Hegemony Fleet began moving into attack formation. Her ship maintained a safe distance while monitoring all communications between Earth and the alien vessels. The 48-hour deadline had expired 6 hours ago, and it was clear that Supreme Commander Vorthak had decided to call humanity's bluff. Captain, Lieutenant David Park reported from his sensors. The alien ships are powering up weapons systems. Energy readings are massive. Each of those vessels carries enough firepower to glass an entire continent. Elena nodded grimly. Lisa, are we still recording everything for Earth Command? Yes, ma'am. Sergeant Lisa Wong replied. All data is being transmitted in real time. Director Chen and his staff are monitoring the situation from Luna Command. The hegemony formation consisted of 20 massive dreadnoughts, each one bristling with plasma cannons and missile launchers. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never encountered serious resistance. Vorthak had chosen a conservative approach, sending only 5 ships to test human defenses, while keeping the rest of his force in reserve. "Begin the demonstration," Vorthak ordered. "Target their largest population center. 3 plasma bombardment rounds should be sufficient to convince them of our seriousness." The 5 lead hegemony ships moved toward Earth, their weapons charging with deadly energy. On Luna Command, Director Marcus Chen watched the approaching threat with calm determination. Around him, hundreds of technicians and military officers worked at their stations, coordinating the most complex defensive operation in human history. "Sir," reported Colonel Sarah Martinez, the tactical coordinator, "enemy vessels are entering the outer defense perimeter. All hidden platforms are showing green status." Chen nodded. "Activate Phase 1 of Operation Starwall. Show them what we've been building." Throughout the solar system, installations that had appeared to be simple research stations and mining platforms suddenly revealed their true nature. Massive weapon systems emerged from concealed positions inside asteroids. Shield generators on the far side of the moon came online, creating protective barriers around Earth and the major colonies. What had looked like communication satellites transformed into armed defense drones, moving to intercept the approaching enemy. On the bridge of the hegemony dreadnought Annihilator, Captain Zethros watched his tactical displays with growing alarm. "Commander, I am detecting massive energy signatures throughout this system. There are defensive installations everywhere." War Marshal Thexan, who was commanding the advance force, studied the readings with disbelief. "That's impossible. Our scouts reported minimal military presence in this system. Where did all of these weapons come from?" The first human defensive installations opened fire before Thexan could fully process what he was seeing. Unlike the plasma weapons favored by most galactic species, the human systems used kinetic projectiles accelerated to incredible velocities by magnetic rail systems. Dense tungsten slugs traveling at 30% of light speed struck the hegemony shields with devastating effect. The Annihilator shook violently as multiple projectiles punched through its defensive barriers and tore massive holes in the ship's hull. Secondary explosions rippled through the vessel as critical systems failed. Within seconds, one of the Empire's most powerful warships was reduced to a crippled wreck. "Impossible," Thexan shouted over the alarms filling his bridge. "How are their weapons penetrating our shields?" His science officer, a young hegemony engineer named Kelter, stared at his instruments in shock. "Sir, they're not using energy weapons at all. They're firing solid projectiles at relativistic speeds. Our shields are designed to deflect plasma and particle beams, not physical objects moving this fast." The other 4 ships in Thexan's force fared no better. The human defense network had been designed specifically to counter the standard tactics used by energy-based civilizations. While most galactic species had developed increasingly powerful plasma weapons and energy shields, humanity had taken a different approach. Their weapons were based on simple physics. Massive objects moving at incredible speeds carried more destructive force than any energy beam. Captain Rodriguez watched from the Aurora as the hegemony attack force was systematically destroyed. The human defensive platforms fired with mechanical precision, each shot calculated by quantum computers to achieve maximum effect. Within 10 minutes, all 5 enemy dreadnoughts were either destroyed or disabled. "My God," whispered Chief Engineer Robert Thompson. "We actually did it. We stopped them." Elena felt a surge of pride, but she knew the real test was still coming. This was just their advance force. The main fleet is still out there. On the Dominion, Supreme Commander Vorthak stared at his tactical displays in stunned silence. His advance force had been annihilated by weapons he had never encountered before. The humans had somehow hidden an entire defensive network throughout their system, using technology that seemed specifically designed to counter hegemony advantages. "Sir," Science Commander Ylara reported, her voice shaking. I'm detecting additional installations activating throughout their system. There are weapons platforms in asteroid belts, defensive stations near their gas giants, and what appears to be a massive shield generator network protecting their inhabited worlds. Vorthek's mind raced as he tried to understand what he was seeing. How long would it take to build all of this? Based on the energy signatures and construction techniques, I estimate at least 30 years of continuous development, Ylara replied. Sir, they'd been preparing for this encounter since they first achieved spaceflight. The implications hit Vorthek like a physical blow. The humans hadn't stumbled into space exploration by accident. They had been systematically preparing for contact with more advanced civilizations from the very beginning. Every mining operation, every research station, every satellite launch had been part of a comprehensive defense strategy. Open a channel to the human patrol vessel, Vorthek ordered. Captain Rodriguez appeared on his screen, her expression calm and professional. Supreme Commander Vorthek, I trust you've seen the effectiveness of our defensive systems. Do you wish to discuss withdrawal of your forces? Vorthek struggled to maintain his composure. Your weapons are impressive, but you cannot defeat the entire empire. I command thousands of ships and control resources from hundreds of star systems. Elena smiled, and there was something dangerous in that expression. Commander, may I ask how many species you've conquered using the same tactics you just tried on us? The Empire has brought order to dozens of civilizations, Vorthek replied, wondering where this conversation was leading. And how many of those civilizations were specifically preparing for your arrival for 3 decades? Elena asked. How many of them designed their entire defense strategy around countering your exact tactics and weapons? Vorthek realized he had no answer to that question. Every species the Empire had encountered had been surprised by first contact. None of them had been specifically preparing for war with the hegemony. Elena continued, her voice growing more confident. You see, Commander, humanity has always assumed we weren't alone in the universe. We've been watching and listening and preparing for this moment since we first reached the stars. We know how galactic empires operate. We've studied the patterns of conquest and submission that have repeated throughout history. On Luna Command, Director Chen watched the conversation with satisfaction. This was exactly the message he had wanted Elena to deliver. Here's what's going to happen, Elena said. You're going to take your remaining ships and withdraw beyond the outer edge of this solar system. You're going to report to your superiors that Terran space is now a prohibited zone for all hegemony forces. Any attempt to enter our territory will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. Vorthek's 6 eyes burned with fury. You dare dictate terms to the Empire? I'm not dictating anything, Elena replied calmly. I'm simply explaining the new reality. Humanity doesn't surrender. We don't bow to threats. We've survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and extinction events. We've climbed out of caves to reach the stars in just a few thousand years. Do you really think we're going to submit to slavery now? The Supreme Commander looked at his tactical displays, calculating the odds of victory. His remaining 15 ships still outnumbered the visible human forces, but the hidden defensive network had proven devastatingly effective. More importantly, this was clearly just the outer layer of human defenses. There was no telling what other surprises they had prepared. You have won this encounter, Vorthek admitted grudgingly. But the Empire will not forget this insult. We will return with sufficient forces to overcome your defenses. Elena's expression grew serious. Commander, let me give you some advice. Go back to your empire and tell them exactly what happened here. Tell them that humanity has been preparing for galactic contact for 30 years. Tell them that we've designed our entire defensive strategy around defeating energy-based civilizations like yours. And tell them that any attempt to invade Terran space will result in the complete destruction of their forces. She paused, letting her words sink in. But also tell them that humanity is willing to engage in peaceful contact and trade with any civilization that approaches us with respect. We don't want war, but we will not accept conquest. Supreme Commander Vorthek considered his options. He could attack with his remaining forces and likely inflict significant damage on the human defenses, but the cost would be enormous. His superiors would not appreciate losing an entire battle fleet to what was supposed to be a simple demonstration of power. "Very well," Vorthak said finally. "We will withdraw for now. But this matter is far from resolved." "I understand," Alina replied. "You know where to find us when you're ready to talk as equals." The hegemony fleet began its withdrawal, leaving the solar system under the watchful eyes of humanity's hidden defenses. As they departed, automated communication systems activated throughout the galaxy, broadcasting the news of the Empire's defeat to every inhabited star system. On distant worlds where oppressed species had fought hopeless battles against hegemony rule, the news sparked something that had been missing for millennia: hope. For the first time in galactic history, someone had successfully defied the Empire and forced them to retreat. Captain Alina Rodriguez watched the alien ships disappear into hyperspace, knowing that this was just the beginning. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. They had drawn a line in space and dared the most powerful empire in the galaxy to cross it. The age of human expansion was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same.